So, it's not going terribly well making videos in my spare time, because it turns out I don't actually have any spare time. So, plan B. You'll just have to come with me while I do stuff. Today's stuff is dog walking, and I apologise in advance if there's any background crackling noises. I lost the hoobry doobry to my microphone. I've ordered a new hoobry doobry, but it's not here yet, so there may be some crackles. Anyway, this episode is going to be part 2 of the full council meeting that was, well, ages ago, 22nd of May, if memory serves me correctly. Now, we start off with Sir Bob Russell having a little chat to the council about what he feels is their legitimacy or lack thereof.
It's important, I think, that somebody puts on the record that this administration does not have democratic legitimacy. The party that comes third, winning only 4 seats out of 17 wards, 3,000 votes or thereabouts behind the parties that came first and second, should not be occupying all 8 seats in the cabinet. That's not democratic. That's not what the people of Colchester voted for. It's contrary to the whole ethos of liberal democracy. I am a Democrat, and I think the people of Colchester are entitled that all 51 councillors have a say in the decision-making process. And I cannot accept, and I must put on record, my disapproval of I seeing democracy at Colchester Town Hall more akin to what you see in Belarus, where the winning party does not take control. In the case of Colchester, the party that came third, winning less than a quarter of the seats, takes control. That cannot be right. Let me conclude with this quote from the leader of the council, Essex County Standard, 10th of May. Whether people vote for a party or not, they have lost faith, they have lost heart, and they have lost trust. They want competence, and they see incompetence.
What we have are exceptional circumstances and a blunt reality. And here's the blunt reality. We do have a cabinet system. We don't have another. We have an elected leader of the council that has to command the support of the chamber. I am that person for this time. And this party, the Liberal Democrats, cannot conduct its business without the overt public support of the Labour and Green Party, to whom my thanks, and with a history of actually delivery of competence, not as you suggest, incompetence. So I believe that we have, collectively, and with every respect to the opposition, the non-Conservative parties have a very clear majority.
Madam Mayor, I'm a founder member of the Liberal Democratic Party. That answer is not acceptable in liberal democracy. The party that came third should not be running the council. The party that polled 3,000 fewer votes than the other 2 parties should not be running the council. I'm not aware of any election literature from any party which says if you vote Labour, you'll end up with the Liberal Democrats. And I end where I started. This council does not have democratic legitimacy. The cabinet, the administration, 51 councillors all have an equal mandate from their electorates in their 17 wards, and they should all have an equal voice. Thank you.
So we do get quite an interesting mix of viewers on this channel, as many from out of town as live locally. Now, most of you are very sympathetic to the trials and tribulations we are facing here in Colchester, but there's 1 or 2 of you that do like to leave comments such as, well, you voted them in. Well, this just goes to show, no, we didn't. We really did not vote this lot in. Now, whilst some of them have been voted in for their individual wards, we as a whole in Colchester definitely didn't vote them in. We certainly didn't vote for the minority to take over, and certainly not as an unofficial coalition. Now, Councillor Naylor did raise this at the Cabinet meeting the other evening, wanting to know how much of an influence that the Red Team were having within the council, along with several other questions. So I will link to that below so you can watch the entirety of what she said. But she's also had a letter published in the Gazette on this matter. And yes, it would be interesting to know who decides what, because from Councillor King's response, he seemed to be saying, well, you know, we're not the ones running this council, like it's a whole mix and we have to keep everybody happy, sort of thing. Now, was he just deflecting the fact that it is them running the council and Labour don't have much of a say, or is Councillor Naylor correct in her thinking that they are having an unofficial say that is influencing the direction the council is going, yet they're not taking responsibility for the unpopular decisions that are being made, that they're blaming the Lib Dems? Well, who knows? But more importantly, the question I think needs to be asked, why on earth did the blue team allow this to happen in the first place? Because let's face it, you've got the most votes, yet you are in no position of power. So, why have you accepted this unofficial coalition? Why not say, if they're going to form a coalition, it has to be an official one? And if the red team won't form a coalition with the tangerine team, then, well, that leaves the unfortunate option of the blue team forming a coalition, which, yes, I know, that would be hell on earth. But, like it or lump it, that is what the electorate in Colchester have voted for. Goodness only knows why, but anyway, there we go. Now, as luck would have it, an unexpected opportunity to ask this question presented itself when Councillor Dundas put on Twitter that he too had done some letter writing to the Gazette regarding the rather shambolic recent Cabinet meeting where only 3 Cabinet members were available to decide how £4 or £5 million of taxpayer money would be spent. So I asked him, a more pressing question is, why have you allowed an unofficial coalition? He responded, from our point of view, there is nothing we can do to stop it. We are outvoted by Lib Dems and Labour combined, so whilst Labour choose to keep a minority Lib Dem administration in power, that's what we get. So I wanted to know, was there a vote to allow a minority? Because I certainly hadn't remembered one, and surely there must be some way to not accept it. Does the LGA offer guidance? He then responded, the leader of the council, whom technically most executive power resides, remains until the end of their elected term in their ward, unless they resign or lose a vote of no confidence. Therefore, no vote needed. If Labour would back a vote of no confidence, they have my number. Oh good, that's nice to know. So I thanked him for clarifying and said it's a pity the public can't call for a vote of no confidence, you'd have a lot of support. What I should have said is a pity the public can't vote in a call for no confidence. What does one do when one's council is illegitimate? Who can you complain to? This is rather ruining a good walk, but anyway, where was I? Now, I don't know whether it was me, but there seemed to be a distinct change of tone with people with regards to the council leader. Several of the Have Your Say speakers did seem to put it forward that he should give them a straight answer in a roundabout way. But also, what was an interesting response was from a lady who you saw at the very end of the last episode. I'll just play that little clip again.
Please make yourself comfortable, press and turn yourself on, so to speak.
Anyway, she was in with the same thing about getting them to do the Trinity Church so that she could help the homeless, and usual word salad response.
Members' views, that's the democratic process, so it has been followed. It may not feel that way to you, but it has been. Representations are made, listened to, a process, a consultation leads to a decision. That's that. In terms of Community 360, that's not a subject we're going to talk about here. You'll be well aware there are conversations between Community 360 and their partners, including this council, going on. I'm not involved in that.
And here's what she said back to him.
Mr. King, I am very sorry to say that from my experience in the councils and the communications with you, you do not seem to be honest. You are saying you have nothing to do with regards to the decision from the Community 360. The portfolio, Mrs. Sommer said, please keep communicating with us. And you said through your head of the finance, please, we thank you for your interest, but we are going to continue with Community 360. It was your personal decision. So how are you saying now I have nothing to do with this? Thank you.
Thank you for your views.
So that did rather set the tone for the evening, with some of the other Have Your Say speakers pretty much saying, could you just give us a straight answer, please? So the tide does seem to be turning. I know certainly my opinion of Councillor King has been, well, let's just say I'm in a bit of a respect deficit after how he's been handling Karina's requests regarding the 5G and them actually doing their job properly and checking that they are being given the correct declarations of conformity. So anyway, it seems that he's not so popular these days, if he ever was. Talking of Karina, she has actually written her response, so I shall read that out in just a moment before we move on to our final two Have Your Say speakers. I'm not going to have time to do a video on everything that happened on the 5th of June cabinet meeting, but thankfully Colchester Chronicle on Twitter did a blow-by-blow account of everything that happened, and it was very amusing as always. So go onto Twitter and look at Colchester Chronicle, and you'll see everything that happened throughout that meeting. Anyway, here is Karina's response to Councillor King. Dear David, I'm rather confused by your response to my previous two emails. At no point has it been suggested that the council go and check if mast installations are meeting ICNIRP guidelines. So why are you choosing to mention the obvious fact that it's Ofcom's responsibility? This is a prima facie a misrepresentation to the questions being asked and which you are under duty to provide direct responses. For the sake of brevity, I'll provide a truncated list at the end of this email. Additionally, why are you sending safety certificates from Nokia with business addresses in Finland and Florida when the issues I've raised are fraudulent safety certificates the council has already accepted from 3 UK Limited and H3G Limited? As you appear to be having difficulty comprehending your responsibilities and what is required, I will elucidate. The public require in writing an assurance that the council will properly check all telecoms planning applications and make sure that declarations of conformity are from active companies, as would be expected of any public body in carrying out their due diligence, and is specifically required in this instance. We also require you to report any fraudulent ones that have already been passed onto the police for them to investigate, or else the council is knowingly complicit in fraudulent behaviour. In that respect, it would also be prudent of the council to write to the companies involved and ask them to provide a declaration of conformity with an active company, or that council will have no other course of action but to revoke their planning permission. This enables the council to take a corrective path and would also assist the council in terms of liability in the event of subsequent harm caused to the public. Talking of liability, I suggest you view this 1.5-minute video regarding a document detailing telecoms companies advising shareholders to prepare for future claims because of harm. Finally, regardless of your personal beliefs on the safety of 5G and similar technologies, there is ample evidence of reasons to be concerned, as laid out in my previous emails, which falls under your duty of care to the public. Please confirm that the council will be taking the action I've outlined above, and I look forward to a full and proper response. And then she lists the questions he wriggled out of in her previous email. We'll put that in the Dropbox folder so you can read it in all its glory. Next up is a gentleman called David Charalambous, and he's going to be followed by Brian Rees, and they had a little something to say on the council's favourite topic.
For 25 years I've been studying psychology and behavioural science. One of the many fascinating things I've witnessed is a deeper understanding of what causes problems that we face in our day-to-day lives. I've spoken with hundreds of experts around the world for the last 4 years, experts who express their views without coercion or financial reward. And I want to share a couple of really important points that affect every single person in this room today. On March the 13th, 1964, Kitty Genovese, a 28-year-old bar manager, was returning home from work. A man known as Winston Moseley murdered her. The astonishing thing was that 38 people witnessed this. Not one of them called the police. This is known as the bystander effect. People often assume that someone else is going to do what needs to be done. Are we assuming the governing bodies in this country will govern and regulate, as they have done with asbestos, DDT, and currently the tainted blood scandal? the same governing bodies that are now funded by those they are supposed to govern. This has been shown to have little to no effect on governing principles. We cannot afford to be bystanders and think someone else is doing it because they are not. And most people will think that they're just following orders. You, the councillors, are the public's first and last line of defence. We cannot afford for you to be bystanders. We are asking that we cannot rely on the information we're being provided without due diligence. So when investigating climate data, you may find that much of it is actually like a house built on sand, with the same structural integrity. This 97% consensus of scientists is far from a consensus. But we say science cannot be wrong, but a consensus from all those clever people, yes. And as Ignaz Semmelweis shown hundreds of years ago, who was known as the saviour of children, he discovered that washing their hands before assisting the birth of a child would lower mortality significantly. What was his reward? Being committed and murdered by the guards. And then now it's just accepted as truth. We must do our jobs and we must represent those we are tasked with representing. All we ask is reasonable due diligence and common sense, and we wish to support you in this endeavour. And my colleague Brian will be mentioning about this public meeting, and we really want to work together on this and make sure that the future that we provide for our families is a good one. Thank you.
All I will say, rather than repeat what's been said before, we'll engage with the public when they need, and we'll follow the science and the data as it changes. And I think that's probably the best assurance I can give. Thank you.
So it's fair to say that if we question the science and the science is not based on scientific principles, then that science will not be followed. Is that correct?
Councillor King?
Excuse me, sir, why are you nodding? The gentleman next to you, so you're nodding your head. The comment I just made was, policy must be followed by real science. And if the government is producing policies that we can clearly prove are not based on scientific principles, then that needs to be questioned. That should be self-evident, is it not? And I'm just asking why you're not doing that.
You can't pick who you talk to, sir.
I understand that, sorry. But
let me respond
yes.
For where I think the majority of the chamber are. There are many views and a huge amount of changing data governing the attitudes of the international and the national community. Right? We will follow the sum of that evidence, we'll take the central view. It's not for this council at this moment to have the debate that you want in the terms you describe. So go back to what I said. We'll follow the science in its sum, and we'll respect differences.
Okay, but if we can clearly prove
so that's it. Okay.
Thank you. I've allowed you to have your say. Not allowed, that's the wrong word. But I've listened to you and I've wanted you to have your say, and the leader has responded. Thank you.
I'm here today to acknowledge the importance of this council and your decisions. This is more than a meeting. It's a recognition of public service and the impact you have on our families and future generations. We all want for a good future for our loved ones and our environment. This means good housing, thriving local businesses and other positive outcomes. Even a small chance of incorrect information can lead to wrong decisions with serious consequences for everyone. Certain studies in the 1970s called for global cooling, and the mass media then suggested that we be subject to an ice age in the next 20 years. Can you imagine how the world would look if decisions had been based upon that information? History is full of poor decisions based on faulty information, asbestos, DDT, thalidomide, and now blood poisoning. All examples where better decisions could have been made if all the available information had been available and presented clearly. So to assist all of us in coming to the right decision, an important public meeting is happening in which all the important parties are invited. And yes, you are one of those important parties. The spirit of this meeting is one of collaboration. We're working together to protect our future community in avoiding bad decision making. It would be wise to take advantage of this opportunity to hear from two UN credentialed climatologists, They will present crucial evidence to help us avoid making poor choices that could haunt us and whose consequences will be felt by all our families yet to come. As we are all aware, the need for an open meeting to examine evidence was agreed both privately and publicly and is necessary if we are to act upon the right information. We look forward to your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brian. We've corresponded on this a couple of times at least, and we've spoken too. And I've tried to carry to you the view of the Chamber as well as just my own, which is, as per the previous item, we will go with the science and the data, acknowledging that that can and has changed and that there is an appropriate scepticism for some issues in life, and you've given us some illustrations. I undertook, and it's still the case, that we would explore with others, we can't do it here ourselves, whether there was a scope for a public meeting. I have nothing more to say on that at this time, but I acknowledge that that question is open and we'll come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, all I've got to say is the invitation's there. Don't miss it. Thanks.
Another day, another dog walk. So there you have it. The peacekeepers have taken it upon themselves to organise the net zero debate rather than wait for the council, which would be never ending. So they are looking for climate scientists to debate the climate scientists that they have. Now, they're looking for actual, proper people, not drama queens that are going to be yelling and screaming about the end of the world without any evidence. So they want an evidence, scientific-based discussion and debate on the climate. So, Green Party and any of the other parties at Colchester Council, or anyone that works at the council, who are your advisors? And will they be willing to debate Ralph Ellis and Peter Taylor? Because when they did the debate at Glastonbury, the only one that was willing to turn up in favour of the green agenda argument was the mayor. And all she talked about was the importance of net zero without any evidence. So they are looking for an evidence-based discussion. And please, local people, contact your councillors and ask them to participate in this event and also to provide evidence and to provide experts that the debate can happen in a proper format. So there we go. We will keep you updated on all this and more. Until next time, take care.